Hi, Nyla. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Miranda.
Hi, Virginia. Hi, Alicia.
Hi there, just reminding everybody that we're currently live. Great.
Hello, everybody.
Evening.
I think we might have quorum at the moment. I'm just gonna wait. Oh, I see a thumbs up from Alicia. But what I'm gonna do first is just take a beat to find our agenda. So please hold tight. All right, I have the agenda in front of me now. Sorry for the delay. Given we have quorum, we'll call to order at 4:33. And I'll begin with our land acknowledgement, which is to say that I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the lands on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. So the first item on our agenda, well, informally, I'd like to draw attention to our new members who are with us today. We will have a more formal introduction momentarily, but thank you all for joining us. And but before that, we'll do our adoption of minutes. Could I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Moved by Miranda, seconded by Brenna. Thank you both very much. All those in favor, please indicate your consent by raising your hand or otherwise. All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next is declaration of any pecuniary interest. There's not really any decision items before us today, so this might not be relevant, but all the same, if there's any declarations, now's the time. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover for the agenda? Moved by Yasmina, seconded by Donna. All those in favor, please indicate your consent by raising your hand or otherwise. Motion carries. Business arising. Okay, here's that welcome that excuse me, that I was talking about. Sorry, I just scarfed some popcorn between meetings and it went down my throat. Anyway, so welcome. I see Lee Rendell and Nyla Moss with us today. I think Rebecca is not with us, but I did want to highlight Rebecca Evans has also joined the committee. And these are to fill a number of vacancies that have emerged in the last year. Let's toss it over to Nyla and Lee for introductions. Nyla, please.
Yeah,
the
sure.
floor is
Thanks,
yours.
Sean. My name's Nyla Moss. I'm the events manager for the Rotary Club of Sault Ste. Marie. I've been with the Rotary Club since 2014, so this will be 10 years. And I'd say that's definitely most of my time is doing Rotary business, whether it's Rotary Fest or the Santa Claus Parade or some of the fundraising that we do. So this committee, when I saw the posting, really stood out to me, and I watched some of the recordings of past meetings, and it just seemed really interesting and pertained to things that I value about our city. So I applied and was accepted, which was awesome. And I'm excited to work with everybody on the things we have coming up.
Thank you so much, Nyla. Welcome. It's great to have you. And Lee.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you, Nyla. I recognize a lot of faces and names. My name is Lee Rendell. I do donor relations and fundraising at the Sue Area Hospital Foundation. I've been here for about 3.5 years. And for about a decade before that, I did fundraising and events for Arch Hospice. I'm also the new owner, co-owner of Cases Music. I've been a big fan of the arts, community events, and music industry in our community for a really long time. And I'm really excited to kind of get a hand in making that happen with you guys. So thank you for having me, and I really look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you so much, Lee, and welcome to you as well. It's great to have you both with us, and also our thanks to Rebecca for putting their name forward as well. Related to this, I did want to share that we one of the vacancies was in relation to a more recent resignation that occurred since our last meeting. So unfortunately, we have had to accept the resignation of Jane Amalo, who had to step away from the committee. But I'd like to extend huge thanks for Jane's contributions over the last, I think it's been almost, what would you say, Alicia? Has it been 4, 5 years?
Sorry, I think she predates my time with the committee.
Right. Yeah. So a huge thanks to Jane for all of the work that she's contributed over these many years. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add to that, Alicia.
No, certainly we'll miss her as part of the committee, and her contributions are greatly valued. And I'm looking forward to meeting her again in the future, of course, in any capacity.
Thanks very much, and welcome Larry, who's joined us. Next item on our agenda is Arts and Culture Assistance Program Early Intake 2024 update. So I will pass it over to Alicia.
Great. The update on this is that it was approved at council on Monday, and we'll be dispersing funds over the next couple of weeks. Applicants will be officially informed as to their status of their applications this week as well, and be able to move forward or reapply if necessary within this next intake.
Thanks, Alicia. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll go back to Alicia for item 5.3, update on the Arts and Culture Assistance Program process for the late intake for 2024.
I think this item here is really just to ensure that we are going to move forward in the same fashion as we did with the last intake. So far, we've had several applications in, and if I'm being honest, that's typically more than we received by this point on the calendar prior to an intake. So I expect it to be competitive and full. And so I believe our next meeting date is April 17th. So I'm hoping to have those applications to you, the committee, for review by the end of the week around April 5th, to give a solid 10 days in between. Recognizing that might also be a short period of time, depending on the number of applications. In that case, I think it's okay with everybody. I'd like to, I guess, disperse them basically in rounds again, if there are quite a lot of them, so that we're not sending a lot of applications at once, an overwhelming amount of work. And so again, we'll tie those numbers of applications to meetings, dates, and that way we know how to be prepared moving forward. I don't think that we need a resolution on this, just as I want to check in and make sure that was still an appropriate course forward.
Thanks, Alicia. And I believe you're correct that this is more of a convention than a motion or policy. So what you're proposing is essentially that we would follow a similar process, but it would be broken up into rounds so that it's more digestible chunks.
Yes.
That's okay.
And
just wanted to.
If it's possible at that April 17th meeting, again, with the first half or quarter of applications, I was going to say that potentially we could then be able to provide meeting dates that work for everybody else a couple weeks in advance from that point, or maybe we can discuss that now while we still have more of a calendar in front of us. I expect 2 or 3 meetings minimum to be able to get through that round of applications as well.
Thanks, Alicia. I see Larry's hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Alicia know I'm going to be away much of the month of April. I'm taking a holiday from about the 2nd until the 22nd or so. So I guess I won't be at that next meeting.
That's okay, Larry. As we do, I'll send all the materials to all committee members, and if you'd like to declare conflicts or would like to not participate in this round, you can indicate some at the time. But the information will continue to flow just to make sure that you do have it and have access to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
On that note, Alicia, I will also be absent from the 14th of April until the 27th. But happy to jump in when I get back.
Okay, perfect.
No problem. Any thoughts from committee members based on previous experience, thoughts on future processes, things of that nature, what you've witnessed before. I know for our new members, this might be thoughts in terms of what you've maybe witnessed on the recordings. Larry? And then
I
Miranda?
I think it's a really good idea to break it up because we don't feel all crammed and we can have more discussion if we want.
That's a good point. And I think we have a good sense of how many we realistically get through in the average meeting now too.
And it makes it easier for us to read them and we'll be more thorough.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go to Alicia and then to you, Miranda. Sorry, just because it might be a direct response.
Sorry about that. Just putting some timelines into perspective for this one as well. Recognizing that most of these applications will have activity and programming start dates at the end of June or beginning of July and onward in the year. That we'd like to potentially have the answers confirmed at our committee level before the middle of May, so that we can make the early June agenda for council. So our deadline should be the middle of May for this. So I guess the planning then comes between the last couple of weeks of April and early May.
Thanks, Alicia. Miranda.
Was basically just going to echo what Larry had said. Compartmentalizing them into chunks makes it easier to do some good time management and also like be very present for the applications so that it doesn't feel like we're rushed. Yeah, there was a noticeably better dialogue around so many of the applications during the last intake.
Thanks, Miranda. Any other thoughts or comments? Brenna.
I'm just curious, if you aren't in attendance for the deliberations, are we able to still use those scores from?
Yes, we have historically used them. Yep. Although I would say, we would encourage the member who submits scores but is absent to, review the recording and see if it sways them in any way, so that they could, if they feel so moved, they could adjust their scores if the conversation impacted them, but otherwise it's just included with the remaining scores. Good question, though. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments? Lee?
I just wanted to share that I too believe that breaking it up into smaller chunks, especially considering that there might be the odd instance where I have to declare like a conflict of interest and step away. I wasn't sure whether that meant I'd have to step out for the whole block or whether it would just be that particular application that I'd then not comment or give any kind of feedback on. If I could just get some clarity on that, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely. And so it would just be that particular application that you wouldn't be part of the conversation for or submit scores for. So in terms of your own scoring, just skip it when you're doing the assessments. And when it comes time for the deliberations, what Alicia will do is create a waiting room for anybody with conflicts, and know that this is not an unusual occurrence at all. I mean, most of us are implicated in the arts in some way or another, and so you're bound to have some kind of conflict, whether it's because you're a collaborator or you submitted yourself, or because you gave them advice on a funding application or the funding application in question, for example. Then those are all cases where we might declare a conflict, and we just sit in the waiting room while that particular item is being discussed, and then we're whisked back in. If you're in person, also you just sort of sit in the hall.
Just to confirm, I guess I have a very high kind of standard on conflict of interest too. I personally would be declaring conflict if, say, an employee of mine put in an application, or somebody that I consulted with or did work for had any kind of volunteer or collaborative or employment relationship with, either being employed by or for, I would declare. And I just want to confirm that that is the appropriate step to take.
There are particular relations that are, I would say, required, but then beyond that, it's really at the discretion of the member. So for instance, if you or an immediate family member stand to gain directly from a successful application, obviously that's a conflict. Relations beyond that, we basically defer to the member's own judgment and encourage you that, if you feel, especially if you feel like your judgment is not impartial, that it should, although Larry, am I using the right word here? Maybe not impartial, but your ability to assess fairly. If that's compromised, then it's best to declare a conflict, but it's up to the individual's discretion. Alicia, is there any variation on that, or am I getting that correct?
I think so. I think that in the actual outline at some point, it was a very literal interpretation of pecuniary. But otherwise, I think that's the appropriate way to approach the situation. And certainly, again, the conversation being that so many of us are connected. So I would say, again, being reasonable in that so many of us have ties, past and present, maybe present ties is where we should be focused upon declaring pecuniary interest.
I see Larry's hand, and then I'll go to Virginia.
Yeah, I think, haven't we been also, if you're a director on an organization that applies you, that's a conflict.
Absolutely. I'd consider you part of the applicant. Yeah. Virginia, then Yasmina.
Yeah, hi everybody. Just to add in, previously last year when everybody was onboarded, we had the clerk's department come and we went over the procedural bylaw. So I'm looking at planning a session because I have committee members from Municipal Heritage as well as the Cultural Vitality Committee. So we'll do a bit of an onboarding section and go over the full procedural bylaw sometime in the next month.
Wonderful. And Yasmina, I saw your hand go up. I don't know if you still wanted to comment.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to add that it isn't just personal conflict, it's the conflict between the organization that you work for or you are affiliated with in any way and the applicant. For example, as a director of the art gallery, I did declare conflict for the exhibition that was proposed to us, and the artist applied. So in my view, that is a conflict of interest. Also, if I am on the board of another organization and an applicant has plans or is related or whatever with that other organization, that is a conflict too.
Thank you very much for highlighting those instances as well. And there are you may encounter scenarios where you think, okay, this doesn't fit that criteria, but it's still, nagging at me, and it still makes you feel a little uncomfortable. Don't hesitate to declare a conflict if you are feeling like it will just alleviate any worry or appearance of conflict as well, because there's no consequence for you not participating in, and in fact, if you declare a conflict, it doesn't even affect our quorum numbers, right? Because it's not counted in those numbers for our ability to continue having decision-making meetings. Brenna?
Might veer it away a little bit. In terms of our cultural events, are applicants able to take their applications and apply to the tourism fund?
Oh, I'm going to defer to Alicia and Virginia on that one.
Yes, I believe so. I don't have the exact details about that, but certainly they're welcome to apply to both streams, and that one doesn't negate the other. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Lee.
Sorry, I just wanted to thank you all. Thank you, Virginia. I'm looking forward to that training session, and thank you all for your input on that. I'm used to kind of the nonprofit standard, which is even the optics of a conflict step away. Like I won't even gamble. So no tickets for me. So thank you so much for all of your insights. That was really helpful. And yeah.
Thanks very much, Lee. I mean, the you know, we've had members as well who have, you know, for a variety of reasons in terms of the complexities of their positions, have actually declared conflicts on all of the applications in a given turn, just to provide that ample assurance of fairness in those deliberations. So so don't hesitate. And thank you for raising the question. It's a really important discussion. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will move to subcommittee task force updates. First of all, public art. Call for a review of, call for review panel members, not for reviewing panel members. Alicia.
At this time, we have a number of public art proposals and things to review over the next couple of months. That'll be coming up. I was going to say that without any details about those at this moment in time, I was going to say that I think we're looking for about 4 people to sit on the panel across the year. I was going to say that certainly they won't be involved in every project of selection and review, but certainly based on availability, we could have 4 volunteers from the committee today that we can contact in the future, depending on the project and conflicts and things throughout the year to sit for the next, I guess, 12 months, so to speak. That would be great.
Yasmina, and then Lee.
I think she's volunteering.
That's what I gathered. Lee, same thing? Yep. And then Brenna. So we've got 3 volunteers so far. And Larry. So that's
Excellent.
4.
Okay, I'm not sure. Do we need a resolution for that, or is that just something I can circle?
I think we need a resolution, but I would defer to Virginia on.
Yes, we would need a resolution. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it. Just because it's not specific, it's more general with.
Mm.
It's that these members.
Okay. Should I say it?
Yeah, let's just say, oh, they can hear us.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that the following 4 volunteers be appointed to the review panel for public art for the next through until the end of December 2024, and will be contacted in whatever capacity public art review is required. Did I write a resolution there, Virginia?
Awesome, Dawn. It seems like you've had experience doing this.
Brilliant. I see Larry's hand up.
I was just going to say, when in doubt, resolve.
Right. Yes. Great. Okay, so the resolution is on the floor. Do we have a mover for the resolution? Moved by Nyla, seconded by Miranda. All those in favor, please indicate your consent by raising your hand or otherwise signaling, and the motion carries. Thank you to the members and also to our volunteers. Next item is the Cultural Forum update. We have had some challenges in terms of getting some momentum. You know, I think we have a good framework for a plan, but in terms of actually getting the resources to pull it off, this has proven to be very challenging. And I wanted to once again check in with Alicia to see if you had something that you'd wanted to add there.
I was just wondering if we could potentially talk about timing with this, click timing as a group here, and potentially I'm not sure if we're ready to call for a subcommittee for this, of a larger group members, as instead of task force at this point, but it's on the table for discussion, I think, if we'd like to move forward with this later in the year. And then again, how to do so.
Great, thanks so much, Alicia. So for the new members' background, part of the city's cultural policy calls for a forum to be held every 2 years, informing or related to the arts and culture community, sort of defined very broadly, right? To discuss a variety of topics pertaining to arts and culture within the community. The specifics aren't defined in the policy. But one of the areas that we've highlighted of as a committee that requires some emphasis or requires some engagement coming up soon is the fact that we are at the tail end of the city's community cultural plan. And so one of the functions of this forum would be to help inform next phases for cultural planning in the city. But as other priorities that have been identified by the committee include providing opportunities for different funders or stakeholders to share information about opportunities related to whether it's grants or industry standards and those sorts of things. Perhaps to bring guest speakers into the community as well. And to have broader conversations about the challenges of arts, cultural heritage sector development, particularly in relatively smaller communities. So we initiated this process last year as a task force. And the distinction between a task force and a subcommittee is that a task force has, what is it, Alicia? As many staff as it does?
More staff.
More staff than members. And so that we were trying to move it forward in that respect. A subcommittee is a wider body of volunteers from the committee and can involve volunteers from outside of the members that are appointed to the committee as well. But those meetings are also subject to the Municipal Act, and so would have to be scheduled in such a way that they can be publicly broadcast, so that there's opportunity for the public to engage in those meetings should any non-members wish to do so. That's always very welcome. But this requires a little bit more, I shouldn't say a little bit, it requires more administrative work on staff in terms of coordinating those types of meetings. But the benefit is that you have broader public participation. So that is where things currently stand. Realistically, I think we're, especially considering the work that's on the committee's plate, I think we're looking, into summer or fall in terms of what's realistic. But that's my personal take. I'd throw it out for comments, questions, thoughts. Lee.
So just to confirm, the cultural forum would be a subcommittee or a task force? Because you explained both and I couldn't figure out which one was applying to the cultural.
Sorry, it has been a task force. And so part of what Alicia has suggested is that, maybe it should be a subcommittee so that we can have widen the scale of membership. Larry. Oh, did you raise your hand or am I? No, sorry. Oops, never mind.
Sean,
Yes.
here are my thoughts. I think that at this point, it couldn't be before the fall, number one. But number two, I think that until we have a better sense of our budget, I really don't think that we can go too much further. And so if the focus could be, and I'm looking at Virginia and Alicia at this time, if the focus could be on continuing to work in the task force group, trying to put to further those ideas that we've had, but firm up some funding and resources otherwise for the planning and implementation of the actual forum in the fall at some point. I think that that's as good as I think we gotta know what we have before we can, go outside of this any further. And if we don't allow enough time for proper planning and valuable content, we're wasting our time and everybody else's time. So those are my thoughts.
Oh, Sean's on mute.
Sorry. Thanks very much, Donna. Miranda.
I think what Donna's saying makes good sense. I also just wanted to note that Luis just stepped off, wondering if that impacts our quorum at all.
We are still good for quorum. Thank you.
Yasmina.
I also agree with Donna. I think that moving to the subcommittee level, we're not there yet because we don't have enough information and we don't have enough details, especially about the budget. So that will determine what we can do. So I think once we know that, that is the time when we can move to the subcommittee level.
Thanks very much, Yasmina. Good thoughts there too. Any other comments or questions? Lee.
Sorry, I wouldn't unmute there for a minute. Are there any resources available that we could find from the past forums that we could look through just to kind of get ourselves up to date with what that looks like? Because all I have is the community culture plan that was established for 2019 to 2024. That's all I have, and I'm wondering if there's other resources that we could access for that.
I am glad you asked, Lee. Part of the push behind this is that there are no other resources to draw from because it's never happened before. Or I should say it hasn't happened in a very, very long time. What I would well, maybe that's exaggerated. I think there were some from a number of years ago, but what I can share are some of those planning documents that went into the development of the community cultural plan that sort of summarized a lot of the findings from those oh God, sorry, brain stopped working. From the engagement sessions that informed the cultural plan. And those were previously, just for the benefit of anybody watching the live stream, these were documents that were previously on the Future Sault Ste. Marie website during that planning process. So, those can be made available by request if anybody wants to see them as well. And then previous to that, I think, yeah, it was prior to that when we had cultural fora, and I think that they were previously facilitated by the Arts Council, if I'm not mistaken, but Virginia might have a better memory of that. Virginia.
Yeah, we did have forums in the past, but they were shorter duration, maybe just an evening where people were invited to provide feedback. So not to the scale that we were trying to accomplish. We were trying to bring in guest speakers, you know, and also then have that opportunity to connect. So this was definitely you know, a larger type cultural forum that we were hoping for. So we haven't done something to this scale in the past, other than the consultation that was done during the cultural plan.
Thank you for refreshing my memory there, Virginia. And sorry for the mix-up. But I'll make sure you get those documents. Brenna.
I believe that might be a factor in why it's taking so long to come together, because it's so open-ended. It was suggested as a solution-based thinking without, you know, and we really can turn it into whatever we want to at this point. So I think that's where we want to take our time and make sure we have everything lined up. So I think that's a good solution, because if you go public with a subcommittee and you don't have ideas of like how viable different ideas are, that's going to be complicated. So the budget's super important. But also from my perspective, it's a huge opportunity because it's fairly open-ended. It's not really something we've done biannually every year so far. We can kind of set it on that path. So I think that's why it's taking a little bit of extra time.
Thanks, Brenna. Any other comments or questions?
Online, I'll get you there. Sorry. Oh, hi.
Oh, yes, sorry. Alicia, then Larry? Yeah.
Yeah, just not to push the issue, but can we generally say then fall 2024?
That seems to be the consensus.
Right, perfect.
I see some thumbs up. And Larry.
I'm just thinking, you know, I mean, it's been said that it's open-ended. That is, I don't know what kind of a forum we would have. I mean, we're not going to. I guess it could be about policy. We could ask people to come and comment on how the existing policy works, but it could also be about things going on within the community. I mean, we've had some very interesting applications. You could have a forum of people that have applied for funding, like Adam Pruitt. Would be fascinating to hear how he came up through this, you know, from Sault Ste. Marie, and now he's mounting a national tour. How he puts it all together. And I can think of other things, the interviews that are, you know, an archive of prominent Sault Ste. Marie people been interviewed, and talk about that. So there, you know, the genre, the kind of forum we would have, and we could be starting to think about those things. You know, it might even be easier to get funding if we're not trying to redesign the policy. You know, might not be very expensive to do a policy that's on or a forum that's on a, you know, a Sunday or something where we have people come in and talk about, like the Adam Proves. Anyway, there's no reason we can't plan. Planning doesn't cost us anything.
Very true, and really great ideas there too, Larry. That also reminded me, one of the other things that I think had been flagged was it's an opportunity for us to get feedback on the Arts and Cultural Assistance Program itself, and what that experience is like. If there's ways that we can simplify it, you know, improve the experience for applicants and so on. Go ahead.
Just another idea. We could have a day on grant writing. And ask, you know, the Trillium and the Ontario Arts Council and Heritage Canada to come in and talk about what they look for in grants and the do's and the don'ts and maybe some local experience. I know there's some really good grant writers in Sault Ste. Marie. Donna Hopper, for example, is from the Sioux. And a lot of these folks might come up, their organizations might pay their way here. That would be useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other comments on the forum?
So just to confirm my understanding, we are halting discussion until the fall is what we're recommending, because we still need to confirm the budget amount so we can know the scope of what the forum would actually possibly even look like, depending on what we kind of get down in terms of the structure and organization of it.
I would say that not so much halting discussion so much as deferring our because I think the last time that we provided an update, we were hoping that we might have the forum sometime in April or May. That's not realistic. So it's more about pushing it back and continuing in. What I've heard so far, just to summarize, is that there's most people have talked about wanting to stick with the task force structure so far until we get a better sense of the or until we get enough funding kind of lined up to be able to launch into those more developed stages.
Excellent, thank you.
And Yasmina?
Just a sec. The way I see it is going to the subcommittee is actually making a public launch of what this forum is. Are we ready to do that? We're not.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. So once we feel that we have enough to make a public announcement about it, that's when we can move into the subcommittee.
Thanks very much, Yasmina. And just for Nyla and Lee's benefit, the members of the task force include Donna, myself, and Yasmina. So that's currently who's on the task force. All right. Any other item or any other comments on this item? Seeing none, let's move on to new business. Is there any? Alicia.
Sorry, I know that you mentioned it earlier, but again, under new business, I'd probably put Jane Amalo's resignation. So I'll reflect that in the minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And good thinking in terms of making sure we get that noted. Yasmina.
Well, it's just more for information purposes that Ontario Culture Days just announced today their list of 13 hubs in Ontario, and Sault Ste. Marie is one of them yet again this year. So we had the first meeting of Cultural Corridor Group this morning to start planning for the events for this fall. The Ontario Culture Days Festival will be from September 20th to October 13th this year. And there are already some very good plans and ideas for different events that will happen during the festival. So anyone who would like to be part of it, please get in touch with, well, me or someone else who is in Cultural Corridor. We welcome new participants. Just so you're aware of that the events are either free or pay as you may. So for some people that is an issue, so have to keep that in mind. And the focus during this time frame, the festival, for our community and our hub will be the weekend of September 27th to Monday the 30th, which is the weekend dedicated to the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So there a few things that are going to be announced soon, what we will be doing for that weekend as part of Ontario Culture Days.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, Yasmina. Miranda.
Just to note for anyone who's interested, there was talk about grant writing info sessions earlier in the meeting. There's actually a Northern Arts session happening online tomorrow, March the 21st at 1 p.m. And there's a registration link that's available, I see posted on Facebook via the Galerie Saint-Cloud Facebook page, and it will be held in French.
Thank you so much, Miranda. Larry.
Since this is becoming an informational thing, I should I'll let you know that the Community Theatre Center got a large grant, almost $200,000, to go through a strategic planning process. They hired Tom Dodds, who was previously with the Economic Development Center or corporation, after he retired from Port Hope and moved back to the Soo, as the leader of that. It's a paid position, and they hired a professional facilitator from Queen's University, who was amazing. Anyway, they're working in teams, and I think that the city should know something about that, because I think there are opportunities for tourism, and you know, I won't go down the laundry list. I could, but you know, I think I don't know how you connect. Alicia knows some of the people on the board because she was a director there for a while. But you know, the department might at least be interested in knowing more about that, and even having some involvement, some representation, because it's going to be a long-term plan. It's been run by a bunch of it's been a working board that's brought it from a school auditorium to really quite a sophisticated little theater with well lit and sound and so on. And you know, they're going to try to work out of that, because people just don't have the time to be working boards, and the guys that have been doing it, me included, are just getting too old. So this is part of what the planning is about.
Very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing, Larry. Any other new business? Seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence, Alicia?
No correspondence at this time.
Then we'll move on to next meeting, which will be scheduled for, what is it, April 17th?
I think so. I'm just double checking now because I'm guessing myself. April 17th it currently is.
And I believe assuming that she's available, which don't mean to assume necessarily, but if Donna's available, she'll be chair as the co-chair, or sorry, vice chair for the committee, since I'll be away that day, but I'll be thinking of you all.
Where will you be thinking of us from?
I will be thinking of you from Cape Verde.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
you won't be thinking of us at all.
No,
Well, I'll be thinking of you from the Pacific Ocean and Panama Canal.
Oh, exciting. Wonderful. Okay, awesome. Well, with that noted, we'll move on to our adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Larry, seconded by Miranda. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Oh, motion carries. Have a great evening, everybody, and welcome again to our awesome new